Now, there is an intense leadership crisis brewing within Nigeria's Labour Party, a party that once showed so much promise leading up to the 2023 elections, but is now grappling with internal turmoil. From allegations of financial misconduct to leadership tussle, it's clear that the party is at a critical juncture. The Labour Party's journey to this crisis arguably began after its failed bid to unseat the ruling APC in the 2023 general elections. In the months that followed, issues of financial accountability, exclusion, and leadership have plagued the party. One of the biggest scandals came from allegations that over 3 billion naira raised for the 2023 campaign through the sale of forms and donations, was not properly accounted for.
Now, the party's national chairman, Julius Abure, has been at the center of the storm, and now with the formation of a national transition committee led by Senator Nenadi Usman, the party is split into two factions. The key question, that is what does the future hold for the Labour Party? So to help us understand better the situation, we're joined by Mawah. He's a legal practitioner and member of the party. And also joining us is Mr. Akeni Moin. He is the chairman, subcommittee on media and publicity, Labour Party National Transition Committee. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on and joining us this morning. Later on during the course of the conversation, we'll most likely be joined by Mr. Gambo Balarabe. He is the former chairman, Contact and Stakeholders Engagement Committee, Labour Party National Transition Committee. But again, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. First of all, gentlemen, I would like to ask each of you what your positions are regarding the crisis inside of the LP regarding leadership, if you'd tell us, please. Let's start with you, Mr. Akeni.
Okay, thank you for having me. You're doing a good job there. I want to commend you for what you do, how you do what you do. Before I make my comment, let me establish our sympathy and condolences, that is the Labour Party, for the catastrophic flooding crisis that our compatriots, our countrymen and women, children are suffering from in Maiduguri. Our hearts go out to them. Now, about the Labour Party, yes, there are crises, but you can begin to say very clearly that there were crises. Those crises are over. Whatever is still hanging is in the imagination of the expired regime or junta of Julius Abure. First of all, that administration ended legally in every form and shape on June 9 this year, 2024, when the extension that Abure was able to boggle for himself in Asaba expired officially. And in the sincerity of the electoral institution, INEC, they have demonstrated to Nigerians in graphic terms that Abure was no more a figure, was no more an element, was no more a factor in the administration of Labour Party, in the existence of the Labour Party. So it is sometimes very upsetting to hear from the media, especially the media, who have the mandate of not just entertainment, but educating the public, still referring to Julius Abure as the national chairman of Labour Party. That has been done by one of you, and it's going all over across the country. How can this channel, for instance, address former President Buhari, Muhammadu Buhari, as the president of Nigeria? It is incongruous. So I want to appeal to you that you do your due diligence. The facts are out there in the public. The internet is 24 hours on duty. Check the documents we have put out. You will see very clearly that every condition that makes Abure to be described as past chairman of Labour Party, they are all in space there. So please help to reduce the confusion in the public by calling a spade, by describing the leadership of the Labour Party as it actually is. For anyone who had any other iota of doubt before today, the meeting that was conveyed on September 4 in Umuahia cleared it out. Who are the leaders of the Labour Party? You don't have to have a PhD in politics to know that the highest elected officer of the Labour Party in the Federal Republic of Nigeria is the governor of Abia State. Then you don't also need any medium of knowledge to know that His Excellency Peter Obi is the natural, moral, and political leader of Labour Party. They were all there, not by representatives. They were there themselves to represent themselves and tell the world what we of the National Transition Committee of the NLC Political Commission has been saying on the rooftops. That
all right, Mr. Akeni.
Abure's tenure had expired. So we don't have any issue except that which is left in the imagination of Abure and his triumvirate or Roman Empire that
Thank
he
you very
was
much,
running as a political party.
I would like to give Mr. Mawah his opportunity to tell us where he stands on this. But while he's doing that, I also want to bring something to note. Mr. Mawah, let's also talk about the factor of trust inside of the party. If you remember, one of the key accusations came from a former national treasurer, Mrs. Oluchi Okpara. You remember that name. Now, she alleged that as a treasurer, she wasn't even a signatory to the party's account. She further claims that only 55 million out of the total raised amounts was for Mr. Abure, was accounted for by Mr. Abure. So how do you think the party can regain the trust of its members and supporters amidst all of these serious allegations?
Yes, thank you. If you can recall vividly, this issue of Abure not being trustworthy, not fit to continue in the leadership of Labour Party, actually started with some of us as far back as 2003, precisely on the 5th of April. If you also follow the trend carefully, on the 5th of April 2023, the FCT High Court sitting in Abuja restrained Abure and 4 other principal members of the party from acting as a national officer of the party pending the determination of the motion before the court then, which issue was bordering on the investigation or the indictment of Abure by the police command in Abuja, where they indicted him of some amount of money. And then some of us came up and said, I was one of the lawyers, the major lawyer in that case that went to court against Abure, led by Chief Ogu. Chief Ogu came to court once. After that, I was the one representing Labour Party in that matter. And our position there was that Abure was no longer fit to continue to act as the national chairman of the party in view of the enormous allegation against him, in view of the restraining order of the FCT High Court. My brother, unfortunately, many persons in Labour Party tagged us as agents of APC. And that Abure was not corrupt, that no court of competent jurisdiction had convicted Abure, and therefore that Abure should continue to run the affair of the party. And then that continued. And I'm sure this my friend here this morning will be privy to this information I'm giving. Now, that did not end there. If they had seen what we saw as at that early stage, as far back as April 2023, we would not have been where we are today. And they said, no, Abure is not corrupt. Abure is a saint. That Papa, Lamidia Papa, and some person then were being used to destabilize the party. And then we continued in that fight till Abure had a neck meeting. Despite the restraining order on the 5th, Abure had a neck meeting in Asaba on the 18th of April, that same 2023, which was widely attended by almost everybody calling for Abure's head today. And we came to the media and everywhere also, and we said, this is wrong. The party is a creation of law. There is a constitution in Labour Party. Article 14, sub 1 of the party says, every meeting of the party must be presided over by the national chairman of the party. Be it NEC, NWC, convention, it must be presided over by the national chairman of the party. And also, the Article 14, sub 2, paragraph B of the same Labour Party constitution says that in the absence of the national chairman, the deputy national chairman, who is the next in command, should step in immediately. And that as at that material point in time, that the deputy national chairman is Haji Lamidi Apapa, and the Apapa should be allowed to step in. Some people say no, Apapa cannot step in, and that Abure should continue despite the order of court. And I argue somewhere, whether it was Arise this thing last week here, Arise TV or so. I told them, I said, Abure is like Abure is like a monster we have built for ourselves. Particularly these stakeholders that are now shouting that Abure is a demon. They built up Abure. As at the time we were crying then to saying that Abure can no longer be allowed to continue, these same stakeholders, we started saying, oh, that some of us were corrupt. I was the lawyer that represented the party in that suit in Abuja. And it, at the point, there was a time we visited Chief Olusegun Obasanjo over some of the issue, and then we narrated some of the issue that Abure cannot continue. But of course, Baba also, the position of Baba there was that, okay, since election was already closed, as at that point, that they should allow for everybody to come together and decide the fate of Abure. So the point I am making is this: all of this corruption allegations started long ago, and none of these persons believed it. But the problem we are having today, the issue I have with the committee set up today is this: who called the meeting? In view of section Article 14, sub 2 of the Constitution of the Labour Party, it provides that every meeting of the party must be called by the national secretary of the party. Now, you see, why some of us are now saying this is that we need to be very careful is that the opposition, the PDP and APC, are waiting for us, because you cannot build something on nothing and expect it to stand. If we do not handle this Labour Party issue carefully, we might end up running into a bigger problem by ourselves as the party. Why am I saying so? Now, if the party constitution, which says that every meeting of the party must be called by the national secretary of the party, who called the meeting that held in Abia State? Don't forget also, there are organs within the party as defined and recognized by the constitution of the party. One of those organs, we have the NEC, the National Executive Committee of the party. We have the NWC, which sees to the day-to-day running of the party. Now, being a governor or former governor, a presidential candidate of a party, you are not a member of the NWC. And if you are not a member of the NWC, you are not empowered under the constitution to call a meeting of the party. So some of us, what we are saying is that...
Mr. Monday, I'd like to let you continue, but I would like to recognize the fact that we have Mr. Gambo Balarabi joining us now. However, we are only joined by voice. So let's first welcome him. Mr. Gambo, you're welcome. Thank you for joining us. Now, Mr. Gambo, before you joined us, we were talking about the positions of the gentlemen here regarding the headship of the LP party. And I wanted to bring this note to everybody here that an audit was called for by the former presidential candidate, that's Mr. Peter Obi, last year, 2023, for an audit so that there can be transparency into these matters in the party. But we're not sure if that audit actually went on. Why didn't it go on, or what suggestions do you have, Mr. Gambo, now for perhaps maybe why this is so within the Labour Party? Mr. Gambo, please. Well, we seem to have lost communication with him. Mr. Akeni, can I come to you for that response, please, if you do not mind, regarding transparency and that audit that never seemed to happen?
It is just an assumption that it didn't happen. When His Excellency Peter Obi called for that audit, in his usual character of living by example, he produced his own records with a team that worked closely with him. Every record to do with the funds that came in and the expenditure that followed. So we have the records of Peter Obi. They're also in the public space. Of course, in the character of Abure, we are yet to see half a page of his own audit record or response to the audit request. And Being that as it may, because we have a lot of hurdles ahead of us we want to cross, we are still allowing the system within to deal with that as an internal accounting request. I would also like to make a few comments about what my compatriot, the Labour Party member, I saw that on the screen, so I will call him a member of a party. When you use some words, I'm sure that you didn't mean any malice when you were saying this. Perhaps the depth of your anger and outrage, you were using the same tag to rob everybody. The Apapa you refer to, after this discussion on air, call him and ask him, who is Comrade Tony Akeni Moin? We saw some of these things far earlier than some of you. I still recall vividly a letter I wrote, more than 3 pages, analyzing the crisis that Abure's style of leadership was brewing. That was way back in 2022. That letter, I think, dated October 22 or thereabout. I told Abure point blank that I would rather lose your friendship than play along with people who want to fawn upon you and get what they can get from you. What you have started is not going to end well. Please retrieve your steps. And then, of course, with tyrants who are bound to lose. He ignored that advice. I was not alone. Even elders from his own Asian nation living outside the country, I have their records, calling upon Abure to do what was right, to depart from that pathway of corruption, fraud, and dissembling of facts, and lead the party right, so that he could leave a legacy behind that the Asian nation will be proud of. Today, that is not what we have. Now, when you say you were crying about the issues and the stakeholders of today, that is the expression that I disagree with. The stakeholders were just exercising a different level of equanimity in the face of calamity. Abure's tenure from the day Peter Obi stepped in has been calamitous. But because we're facing a major election where we wanted to give Nigeria a breakthrough and a breakaway from the past catastrophe of misgovernance, we had to manage the issues that were coming from Abure's desk.
Mr.
Let us go into this
Mr.
election
Kenny, when you say we, are you referring to the national
we can go back and visit these things. So that is what the stakeholders did ultimately on April 8th, when we first convened to bring in on board every interest group. They were all invited. I am sure the group you belong to received an invitation to the meeting of April 8th calling for stakeholders. If you didn't attend, you had your own reasons. But it was not because you were neglected. So I needed to correct that.
All right, yes, thank you so much, sir.
All right, Mr. Akeni, I was trying to ask, when you said we, were you referring to the National Transition Committee? Mr. Akeni,
oh, yes, I was referring to the stakeholders that constituted the National Transition Committee. The National Transition Committee is constituted by
regarding the National Transition Committee,
vested interest in the party. Are we together?
Now, regarding the National Transition Committee, can you please give us exactly what the function of the National Transition Committee is and why exactly it was set up when the Abure-led committee was still running?
Abure's tenure actually expired long before April 8, 2024, when the NLC Political Commission had to step in and invite stakeholders across the country to say that, look, we are running this party on illegality of Abure's continuation in office. We don't need to fight dirty in public. Let us come together, reason together, and since Abure was not ready to depart from that office, quietly and legally, let us bring the facts before him. The NLC, being a stakeholder, as established by a competent court, a federal high court in Abuja, which returned what we call the consent judgment of March 20, 2018, that the NLC is an institutional stakeholder, not like an individual, but an institutional stakeholder. And that consent judgment led to the expectation that within 1 year, after 20th of March 2018, which would have been 20th of March or 19th of March 2019, Abure would have conducted an all-inclusive national convention.
Mr. Akeni.
So he didn't do that. So the illegality or breach of the consent judgment, starting from that 1 year ultimatum given by the court judgment, was what led to the stakeholders coming together to say, if we continue like this, then we will be allowing illegality to have a permanent place in our budget.
All right. Now, well, Mr. Akeni, many thanks for that, your submission. We understand that we have Gambo, Mr. Gambo Balarabe. He is now live. Unfortunately, he cannot join us with visuals, so we have to do with audio. But Mr. Gambo, can you hear us loud and clear now?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Loud and clear. There we go. We can hear you. I mean, with all of
Am I audible?
Yes, very clear. With all of the internal crisis going on, we've seen.
Okay.
Yes, we can hear you. Yes, I was about to ask the question. With all of the internal crisis going on, the tussle, two separate factions, the Labour Party had promising, prospects from at least coming from the 2023 general elections. How do you see the party steering clear from this so it doesn't fall into the same pattern as other, promising opposition parties as we've seen in the past?
No, sorry, I'm having glitches. I didn't get your question properly.
Okay, I'm going to ask you again.
Can you repeat your question, please?
Okay,
I'm sorry.
With the internal fighting and crisis and the factions going on, how can the Labour Party stand together, solidified, united, and not fall the same fate as the other opposition parties that we've seen in recent times?
Okay. Thank you very much. I want to remove that notion that there's a faction or there are factions in the Labour Party. There are no factions. This is true. There are people who feel they want to take the power and manage the party from their own perspective. The same party, but with people who want to feel that they know how to manage better, and so they want to actually be at the lead. Now, we are working. We started through the National Transition Committee to build one formidable structure. And the Transition Committee was a baby of necessity, which came about through the the political commission of the Nigerian Labour Congress. We went through a lot of processes to the level of getting INEC to recognize that entity. But along the line, we had a meeting, the NTC had a meeting with INEC, who proposed that a meeting be called of all encompassing stakeholders, including the Abure-led or expired-led leadership of the party. That never happened because Peter Obi, after meeting with NTC, resolved to resolve the matter internally as a family, meaning the concept of INEC was now translated into an internal dispute resolution aspect, while Abure and every other stakeholder will come around a table and discuss way forward. This led to the Umahia expanded all stakeholder meeting. It never meant any harm. The meeting did not exclude anybody. including the Apapa who taught there, because I personally called Apapa and called some of his leaders and asked them to come to Umuahia if they so wished, under the Abure, because later we heard that they have merged with Abure. And so Ladi Ilya and others were still part of Abure and were in Umuahia. So the meeting in Umuahia, as I heard earlier, that was erroneously called for by the governor. The governor had all right because there was a leadership vacuum. Abure's tenure has expired along with his executive. And we have only 7 people remaining as constituted members of NEC, and the governor of Abia and his vice. Then the NLC Congress president and his secretary, the TUC president and his secretary, and the 2 women commission chairmen of NLC and TUC. They remain members of NEC. And so that there's no chairman, no secretary, and no other position title holder that has his tenure not expired, except these statutory members. The NEC advised the governor, who is the leader of the party, elected leader of the party, to actually convoke this meeting. I'm not saying the governor on his own decided. No, it is after consultation with INEC. I am privy to this discussion.
Mr.
And
Gamble.
so the governor went ahead. Yes.
Mr. Gamble, I want to say, first
can
off,
hear me?
I want to jump on something that you had said and also bring Mr. Monday Mawah here. Now, when you said that there were no factions, we had a reaction from Mr. Monday. We also have reactions online of people asking exactly regarding that lack of factions that you spoke about. Mr. Monday, what was that reaction we saw you give when Mr. Gamble referred to the no faction instance in the LP?
I think my friend there is just trying to be diplomatic in his approach. You can't say there is no faction in Labour Party. Right from the period Abure was restrained, the Apapa faction emerged in Labour Party. And that continued, and we're looking at how it will be managed. Unfortunately, it was not properly managed. And before I even go deeper, my Mr. Tony tried to correct the position I made earlier when I said the same stakeholder. What I meant by that was that, with the greater respect, His Excellency Peter Obi, as at that time we were calling for Abure removal, was seriously in romance with Abure. Even the governor of Abia State, they tagged everyone then, including Apapa himself, as being used. And now this same thing we're talking about then is what they are all seeing today. And some of them are now saying, oh, why is the Papa and his group are not joining them? But let's leave that. Let me focus on your question. I just wanted to make that clarification quickly. Now, the fashion, when Abure, don't forget, Abure also held a convention, whether legally or illegally, at Oka in Anambra State. That convention is still on till date, my brother, and people were elected from that convention. I'm against that convention because as far as we are concerned, Abure at that particular point in time was not having the capacity to call for convention. Unfortunately, he called for it, and people emerged from that convention, including himself. Now, the law is that when a thing has been done, whether legally or rightly or wrongly, that thing still remain valid until set aside by a court of competent jurisdiction. INEC, I'm saying this again, and I want it to be on record, and this thing will come back after now to haunt us in Labour Party. INEC has no power to declare a convention that had already been declared done, null and void. INEC has no such constitutional power. Section 82 and 84 of the Electoral Act that empowers INEC to participate in a meeting of a political party only gives INEC a participatory right. And if you invite INEC for a party function, and INEC on its own will refuse to attend, that does not in itself, legally speaking, invalidate the meeting of that party.
Mr. Monday, we're going to come back to this. We're going to come back to this and let you finish. We're going to go on a very short break, but when we come back, we'll give you the opportunity to conclude your thought. Do stay with us. We'll be back.
And you're watching Breakfast Extra. Before the break, we were talking to members of the Labour Party, Mr. Akeni Moin, as well as Mr. Gambo Balarabe, and of course Monday Mawah. And it's been just a conversations on the tussle, the internal crisis in Labour Party. Now, as we wrap up this session today, it's been just 20 or 40, 30 minutes of in-depth conversation. I would like to get your final reactions, and I'm going to start with you, Monday Mawah. I know that you you said I cannot speak to you, hence why we have not been able to ask any questions to you. Hopefully you won't be able to walk away with my next question. But I want to ask you, and I asked this question yesterday, Nenadi has extended an olive branch, and she's asked for, collaboration from both factions, from the Abure-led ESCOs and the new National Working Committee, Transition Committee together. Do you see an instant where these two factions can come together and work together ahead of 2027?
Of course, it's possible. Nothing is impossible in my own view. But
what would it take? What would it take? What would it take? I understand Monday's frozen there. Mr. Akeni Moin, I have to ask you, what would it take to see a Abure-led faction, or, okay, I understand that Monday's back on, but Monday I was asking, what would it take, for that olive branch to be received?
Yes, like I said earlier, everybody believes it's important, and you must give them that sense of belonging.
We seem to have lost him there. But Mr. Akeni Moin.
When we change into this, we started up together, and I know how many things have done for Labour Party. But immediately Abure changed into all of this kind of thing. I never supported him. But the point is that, like I said yesterday, we must not put the cart before the horse. We must call Abure I'm still saying it today, is still a very serious stakeholder in Labour Party. We still have a faction in Labour Party. So we must bring Abure on the table. Yes, he believes now he's still a national chairman by virtue of the purported convention he conducted in Anambra State. But we must also try to bring him. See how we can talk to him. Not just Abure, we have a papa. Not just a papa, we have Mr. Okako Kalitus. All those people are all stakeholders. So we have, in bringing a lasting peace that will be embraced by all and sundry, we must be humble enough to bring all of them together.
All right,
not
then,
sitting
Mr.
on
Monday.
the high horse, making them look like they are not important. They are all important. It's a family affair.
Mr. Akeni. All right, Mr. Monday, many thanks. Let's switch now to Akeni because we're out of time. Mr. Akeni, your final thoughts in 30 seconds, please.
Okay. Akeni is the actual pronunciation of
Akeni, apologies.
Thanks. One, the sense that our legal brother is conveying to the public is a mixture, transgender of, partisanship. In one breath, he wants the party to move forward. In another breath, he's excavating issues that can stop the party from moving forward. When you examine carefully what he's been saying, he probably did not mean it that way. But what he's saying is that he recognizes the convention, the illegal convening of wolf packs of like minds that took place in Inewi. INEC did not recognize it. The stakeholders of the party did not attend. And the stakeholders include the elected members of the Labour Party in the National Assembly, in the various state houses of assembly. They did not attend. Now, a papa who you refer to as a neglected stakeholder, no, he was not neglected. Even in the very critical April 8 stakeholders meeting that we had in Abuja. He was invited prior to that time. And 2 days to that time, I called him. And he told me that, yes, he had received the invitation, but he had logistics constraints. How to get to Abuja and accommodation and all of that. So,
all right.
If not for, he would have.
All right. Well, we want to say thank you, gentlemen, for coming, and appreciate you for taking out the time this morning, Sunday morning, to come in here and have this very, very important conversation about the future of Labour Party. Once again, many thanks to you both, and also to Mr. Gambo Balarabe, who took out time from his busy schedule to join us. We appreciate you for doing this with us this morning. Many thanks.
Thank you.